Good afternoon, guys. How you doing? It's a hot Thursday afternoon, 102 out here in San Jose, California, as I'm driving right back home to Gilroy right now. And you got me, aka The Weathered Soul, here on Driving It Home. And I want to welcome you guys here to my first edition, the first episode of this podcast. I did an introduction yesterday, and I'm just so glad you're here. I wanted to give you guys a little insight to who AKA The Weathered Soul is. I am Bruce McGee. I will be here when I do this podcast every once in a while, this live podcast. It's actually not a live podcast. It's a video that I post on YouTube, and then I post it on Facebook. But just a little kind of a background behind me. I've lived in California all my life. I'm a native Californian, here from San Jose, California. I moved to Gilroy about 12 years ago. And, basically the reason why I do these podcasts and these Facebook Lives and things like that is because I love to talk. I love to give commentary. I love to get on my soapbox every once in a while and sing to the clouds and yell at Facebook and yell at Twitter and yell at everybody else. But I like to hope to think that some of my words might ring true into somebody's mind, and somebody needs to hear what I have to say. And sometimes I'd like to hear what you guys have to say too. So please leave a comment underneath any place that you see this, whether you see it on YouTube Live, whether you see it on Facebook. You can leave a comment any place you have underneath. You can leave me email from the email address that I'll have posted on underneath the description of this video, and I would just be welcome to anything that you guys have to say, because I love to talk about topics. I love to talk about what you have to talk about. I love to talk about what I listen to all day, and I've just got a really craw in me right now. It's kind of really been digging at me for a long time. I've got a lot to say, usually about politics, but mostly about the social aspects of what's going on here in the state, in the city, in the town that I live in the nation that I live in. And it's really, really kind of sickening when we divide ourselves. And right now, I can't think of more of a time that we've been ever divided more than we are right now. I mean, we've got the mainstream media, Fox News, we have CNN, we got MSNBC, we got a couple other players in the game that do nothing but want to divide us into separate factions. Now, most of the factions that you can hear are left and right, blue and red, all those things like that. And I am of the aspect that I side with my libertarian self. I think in a libertarian way. I like liberty. I like freedom. That is no surprise to anybody who has followed me. All of my new followers, just so you know, that I side with freedom and liberty. I'm not for big government. I'm not for taxes. I'm not for anything that is going to impose on you to provide for me. I would rather impose on the community itself as a collective, and not as a regulation for you to support my roads, support my water, support my electricity, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. A lot of you might be upset about that because they all think about, well, what happens with my roads? What happens with my electricity? What happens with this? What happens with that? There's plenty of evidence out there that a community can support these private functions that we need to survive. And I'll show you a couple of those examples later on in other podcasts. But I really want to talk about the division right now that we have, and I really want to talk about there was this movie back in 1988 called Colors. It had Robert Duvall and Sean Penn in it. And they were two police officers in the south central area of Los Angeles, and they were dealing with the gangs down there, basically the Crips and the Bloods, and they had divided themselves into colors, red and blue. And to me, when I look at that movie, when I look at movies like Colors, when I look at movies like American Me, with John Edward Olmos and a couple of Forsyth and those guys, when I look at all these things that we've come to know and divide ourselves into colors, we got red states, we got blue states, we had the norteños and the serranos, with one is blue and one is red. I actually had a problem down in downtown San Jose one time when I was down there during Cinco de Mayo, and somebody asked me, am I for the red or if I'm for the blue? You know what? I'm not for anything like that. All I'm for is for my freedom and for my liberty. And I think it's damn stupid that we divide ourselves into these things, whether we're religious, whether we're not religious, whether we're Catholic, whether we're atheists, whether we're Christians, whether we're freaking Episcopalians, whether we're Democrat, whether we're Republican, whether we're libertarians. I lean on the libertarian side, but I don't vote libertarian. I vote for the best person for the job, and I definitely do not vote for those people that are lesser of two evils. But what I want to say is that this division is just going crazy, especially this woke thing that we got going on. You got Jon Stewart coming back on Colbert's show the other night, and Colbert was desperately trying to get Jon Stewart to shut up because Jon Stewart was saying something satirical about the COVID-19 and the conspiracies and whatever we did over the past year, and trying to develop some kind of a situation to trying to figure out where this COVID virus came from. Where did it come from naturally? Did it come from the lab? What does it matter? The virus is here. The virus is killing people. It really doesn't matter. Let's keep ourselves on the collective soul of thinking about, hey, what can we do about this thing? If you're susceptible to this COVID virus, stay away from it. Don't make me have to wear my face mask and have to social distance and everything else because I happen to not believe that of certain aspects that have to do with COVID-19. It's probably getting me kicked off of freaking YouTube already, but I really don't care what I get kicked off of. But the fact of the matter is those kind of news stories, the wokeism that's going on with the left and the right, because they're both guilty of the same freaking thing, but we keep dividing ourselves more and more, and the division keeps getting wider and wider, and the collective soul between all of us is becoming so wide that we can't get together and we can't talk about things that make us unique, make us together, give us the power to be together. We don't have that anymore, and I don't want it to become into a war or something like that that's going to bring us together, some tragedy like 9/11 or something like that brings us together in a nation. Why can't we during a peacetime become one people instead of having to have some tragedy happen to become as one? This tragedy of COVID happened, whether or not you believe in a conspiracy, or whether you believe that the virus is taking its toll, or whether they counted it right, or whether, he died of this or he died of that. It doesn't matter. People are dying. Why can't we come together as a nation and fight this together instead of being so far apart because we're so driven by the media right now that we hate Fauci, or you love Fauci, or you believe the WHO, or you don't believe the WHO, or you got the CDC keep changing their mind on what direction that they want to go. We got California to open right back up, but the mask mandates are still all the way around, and the governor doesn't want to give up his emergency powers. It's all the collective soul breaking apart. That's what it is. And it's maddening. And it's got to be maddening to you too. I know it's maddening to you because I hear it. I hear it from the people that disagree with me, that they're mad on that side. And I'm just as mad on my side, going like, this is crazy. I'm not for the left or the right. Sometimes I'm not even for the middle. I'm just for the collective soul. I'm for the collective getting together and coming up with the strategy that works for everybody. We all know where all these things go to. Are we any better with Biden than we were with Trump? What the fuck does it really matter whether we are or not? They're both puppets for an oligarchy that we can't control. We both think that the next best thing is going to take us out of this situation, and it hasn't. We're right in the same spot we were with Trump. We're right with Trump. We were right in the same spot we were with Obama. With Obama, we were right in the same spot that we were with President Bush. It's just the new boss on a different day. Yet we keep dividing ourselves more and more and more. I just, to me, it's one of those things that when I hear it and I see it and I read it in my media and they keep pounding it to me on Facebook, they keep pounding it to me on Twitter, and you can go to Gab, you can go to MeWe, you can go to all those other sites, and all you're going to get is one side. So there's really no freaking free speech because you're going to get pounded by one side or the other to try to get them to come to their understanding of what they say is right or wrong. There's really no right or wrong. What's right for me isn't exactly right for you, but why does that have to divide us? Why do we have to be, inclusive or exclusive? Why does it matter whether we're either? As long as we understand each other, as long as we understand that we have a need, as long as we understand that we need to help each other in times that we need help, and sometimes we just want to be left alone, so leave us alone. Why is that so hard to understand? Why do we need regulations to tell us that we need to be so in love with somebody or not be in love with somebody? Or that we need to be nice to this person or nice to that person? It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you be a decent person all the time. There's a time to be decent, and then there's a time to be not nice. And what we do is we find out that we're not nice with a lot of things, that we just need to be compassionate and listen to the other side and be somewhere where that person is. If you can come to the place where that person is that you're disagreeing with, maybe you might be able to see their side. If you can meet somebody where they're at, that's where you can have a conversation and change minds, or at least come to some kind of discussion where you have a decent discussion without blaming Bush, or without blaming Obama, or without blaming blacks, or without blaming whites, or without blaming the Mexicans, or without blaming, whatever it is you're going to blame. Meet people where they're at, because if you meet people where they're at, they're more than likely going to listen to you, instead of spouting off that you hate this and you hate that. Because it takes a lot of energy to hate, guys. It takes a lot of energy to hate. But it doesn't take a lot of effort to go somewhere where people are. Go to the same place in your brain where they're at. Understand where they're at. And then try to communicate with them where they're at. Bring yourself up to their level or bring yourself down to their level. It's pretty freaking easy. This is the kind of things that I want to talk about every day. A lot of times I like to talk about the news. This is just a situation that's been boiling up inside of me for years now. And I've wanted to say something about it. Some things that I can't say on the Weathered Soul podcast because it's it's a different podcast. Some things I can't say from Independent of My Stomach, which is another podcast, because it's a totally different podcast dealing with wellness and motivation. But these are my thoughts that I have through all the day while I'm working, and I'm kind of scanning through the news or listening to a podcast or something like that while I'm working, and it's all about this division. I want to get rid of the divide, man. I want to get rid of the divide. I want to come together. I want to have community with you. I want to have community with you where you're at. I want you to have community with me where I'm at. I want to have a discussion with you to make solutions of a small nature that can impact a big society. That's where we need to be at, guys. So this is Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul, here with you on Driving It Home, and that's where I'm at. I'm driving it home right now. You guys have a good time, a good weekend. If I don't see you tomorrow, I'll see you again real soon. But other than that, I'll see you next time that I do Driving It Home. Later.